Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to UI Breakfast. Today we'll do a brief teardown of MailChimp, and I'm going to show you common features that really irritate the users in everyday life. We're going to focus on data lists, but I'll start with one thing that's common for the most apps. I do this multiple times a day. I jump to MailChimp.com in my browser, and what I see is a marketing site. And since that MailChimp is my most important daily tool, I really hate that I have to do a few more steps before I dive into campaigns. So I hit login, and even though it remembers me, I still have to view the marketing site every time. And then it throws me into the dashboard, which shows stats for the recent campaigns, list growth, top 5 campaigns, which don't really make much sense to me because usually the best performing campaigns are like the top freebies or the welcome email, like it's here. And then the chimp chatter, which is not really very cheerful most times because every time I send out a campaign, I get about 10 or 20 unsubscribes. And here's what I can see here. So this dashboard is nice and fancy, but it's no interest to me because I really want to dive into campaigns. Consider that when you're designing a fancy dashboard for your work tool app. People want to dive into the key object list, which is campaigns for this one. So this is a campaign list, and I want to show you a few flaws which MailChimp has. MailChimp is an amazing piece of software created for email marketing and email marketing automation, and I swear by it, even though there's very nice variety of alternatives like ConvertKit and Drip. But I'm a loyal fan of MailChimp, and I really like their style. I really like the majority of their UI decisions. So let's have a look. They have a very nice object-driven navigation, campaigns, templates, lists, which is managing users, reports, and automation. Rightfully, they have campaigns as the first item because that's what the user does on the daily basis. I would say that for MailChimp, their primarily task is creating and sending a campaign because that's what users do. Everything else, like list reports and automation, is done more or less frequently. So let's see. We have one thing that bothers me a little bit is that campaigns and reports are at large very much the same thing because we still have the same campaign list, which looks similar. So if I were to create this app from scratch, I would probably give a recommendation to combine these two lists since they are focused on the same list of objects, just offering various functionality. Let's see what we have here for send campaign. It really wouldn't hurt. We have view email, rename, replicate, and social share. For the reports part, we have view email, share campaign, share report, download, and print. That's about the report. I would really combine the report functionality within the campaigns section. There is such phenomenon as Rss Driven Campaigns. You can see it here. It's UI Breakfast Podcast and UI Breakfast Articles. This is a type of automation. I really cannot guess why this isn't in automation yet, because essentially it is. It's a templated campaign that I send out. I post a blog post at UI Breakfast website, and this thing, it fetches RSS content from the blog, checks it once a day, and sends out a campaign on a certain time if there is an article. This is really handy for the UI Practicum articles and for UI Breakfast podcast that I have. Once the campaign is sent, it turns out into a campaign entity. So it only appears here twice, once here and once there. But actually, on the reports page, you can see that UI Breakfast podcast and articles happen more often because once it's sent, it becomes an entity here. I imagine that kind of architecture problem is one of the reasons why it's not an automation and while reports and campaigns are separate tabs. I don't know, but that might be confusing for the user. One thing that really bothers me about these campaigns is that you have to pause them to edit. So the context menu for such RSS campaign is view email, pause, rename, and replicate. And I want to edit this. There is no editing word here in the menu. This is really, really frustrating. And because I'm a power user, I know that the pause is going to trigger the editor. So what in fact pause does is UI breakfast articles has been paused for editing. Well, this is really confusing. If they just phrased the menu item as pause and edit, that would really make things so much easier. What I really like about this editor is that save and exit thing, because it allows me to close the editor and go to somewhere I want. In our case, I'm gonna go back to campaigns, and then it's gonna prompt me. Oh, it never asked me. So usually it asks me whether I want to resume the edited campaign. This problem has cost me a few problems in the automation space when I jumped in to edit something, just checked on it, and it never prompted me to resume it again. So I want to, what I want to do? I can't really. I really have to go back and start it again. Okay. Now let's go back to campaigns. I want to show you one more flaw in this list, and it's about deleting items. Each item in list should absolutely have the edit functionality, if you can still do that, the delete functionality, and the archive functionality that's also helpful. Here, none of them have a delete functionality. However, I do know that there is a way to do that. Click that, and we have bulk items. Have multiple items or one of them, we can find delete here. And you would think that is caused by, people don't want us to accidentally delete stuff. However, there is a really, really good filter here for deleting items. For deleting even a campaign, you have to type delete to confirm. And there is really no stress about putting that delete thing into this menu, because people do want to delete an individual campaign. So it's totally fine to have bulk actions on the top, but most likely you want to, if some of these actions are applicable to a single campaign, for goodness sake, do include them in the context menu. I think that's all that I wanted to point out for today. So the key takeaways here are: include all the relevant actions into the context menu. And if you have multiple tabs that are dealing with the same object list, think about combining them. Other than that, I really like the piece of software which is called MailChimp, and maybe we'll review some of the other features the other day. Thanks for listening, and have a lovely day.